So I went for a bone density test the other day, and the technician asked me a question that made me stop and think. She asked, how did I get over the shock of being diagnosed with cancer? Now, this was interesting to me because the question assumes two things, right? That I was shocked and that I got over it. So I started thinking, was I shocked? I mean, I should have been shocked, right? Right? I should have been shocked. But part of the reason why you're not shocked immediately is because being diagnosed with cancer in real life isn't the same way it happens in movies. Right? In a movie, they go into the doctor and then they sit in an office. Their loved one's probably sitting next to them holding their hand, and the doctor says, you have cancer. In real life, you go for a routine test, maybe a mammogram, and then you get a call saying they need to take a second look, run another test. So you take that test, and then the doctor calls you in and starts going over your scans, and then they start talking to you in a way you've never heard before. And then they say they need to run another test. Mine was a needle biopsy on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving last year. And then I waited. Now it was Thanksgiving, so I didn't expect it to be the regular 2 to 3 day turnaround time. But after the weekend, I expected a call, but it didn't come. So on day 7, I start calling them. On my first call, it sounds like maybe they really don't have my test results. On my third call, it sounds like maybe they're in, but the person on the phone can't actually give them to me. And then on my 5th call, I'm just told that Maya will have to call me back. On day 8, the woman I now fondly refer to as Malignant Maya, she must be really great at giving bad news, she called me back. I was sitting in a meeting, and I saw the phone ring, and of course I recognized the number I'd been dialing 8 times by now. So I got up and I went into the hallway to listen. I knew what she was going to say before she ever said anything. Everything leading up to then had told me. So she really just confirmed to me that I had breast cancer. I went back to my office, I packed my stuff up, and I went downstairs because one of my best friends was picking me up because we had tickets that night to the Justin Timberlake concert. And that's what we did. I went to dinner, told my friends I had cancer, and we headed to the concert. And that's me on diagnosis day, right? I don't think I look shocked. I'm just keeping it moving, right? But the next day, I jumped right in. I started calling doctors, getting referrals. My cancer was stage 0, which basically means it was all still encased in the duct. And it's kind of almost like pre-cancer, best kind of cancer you can have. Only time I was really happy to get a 0. Because this worked really well with my just keep it moving plan, right? I figured I could have surgery, recover, have reconstructive surgery, recover, and then just go ahead and get back to my normal life. I scheduled my double mastectomy for January 2nd. It was 27 days later, because that's who I am. I'm a get it done girl. I just figured, this was like any other obstacle. I'd face it, figure out how to get past it, and I would go full speed ahead. And cancer was not going to be any different. I was just going to keep it moving. And my surgery went fine. I was headed to recovery. I figured I'd be good to go for spring break. But after surgery, we discovered that the cancer had spread to one of the 8 lymph nodes they removed during surgery. Now that was unexpected. I mean, how could it be? There wasn't even an invasive tumor. So this sort of had everyone stumped. So I went down to MD Anderson to get a second opinion. It was February 16th, my 42nd birthday, the day I start hearing the word invasive. They found a pinhead-sized invasive tumor that upon inception had literally kept it moving and metastasized in my lymph nodes very quickly. Well, now we were dealing with something altogether different. And now they were talking chemotherapy. But it was my birthday. So my sister and I hopped on a plane and went back to Dallas, met up with my friends, and celebrated at the Maroon 5 concert. And here I am, still not looking shocked, right? But I'm just keeping it moving, living life as usual. So again, the next day, I get up, I start working on my third job, my cancer gig, and I'm calling doctors and I'm starting to schedule chemotherapy and making a plan. I line everybody up so they could all get it together, my family, my friends, my ex-husband, so that we could all be prepared for me to go through chemotherapy and then just get back to normal life. I had to make preparations. I'm a single mom. I have 2 little girls. It was going to be the last 3 months of school, and I would go through 4 rounds of chemotherapy. I started making my list. Managing this situation like I've managed many situations before. But that list was getting long, and the uncertainty was looming, and the fear was starting to set in. And I was starting to feel the pressure. I was starting to wonder, could I really just keep this thing moving? So I'm at home one day with my girls, fully recovered from my double mastectomy. It's about a week before chemotherapy. I'm going down my to-do before chemo list, and I decide to go in the kitchen to grab a snack. The dishwasher's running. And I walk into the kitchen, and water seeps up from the floor. I take another step, and more water bubbles up. I can't believe what I'm seeing. I squish 3 more steps over to the dishwasher, and I turn it off. I could not take any more. I could not add one more thing to this growing, scary list. I slowly backed out of the kitchen like that was gonna make it go away. I just wanted to stick my head in the sand. I needed to escape from this entire situation. So I called the girls, and I said, get in the car. We're going to get pedicures. So we drive down the tollway, headed to the salon I've gone to for nearly 20 years. And I'm driving along, but my mind is swirling, just thinking about all of the things that I have to do. I exit, and I'm coming back around off the tollway, headed towards the light at the access road. And I swear to you, that light went from green to red. And I'm just keeping it moving. And I slam right into another SUV who's coming full force through that intersection. When we collided, there was nothing I could do. I looked back into the back seat, and it was as if everything was moving in slow motion as I watched my girls shift in their seats, and then the airbags come swooping down from the ceiling. We spun around, and thank God we were not hit by another car. We landed in the turn lane facing the direction we had been coming. No one was hurt. No one was hurt. And when the police officer asked me what happened, all I could tell him was that I was completely distracted. I wasn't texting or talking on the phone or doing my makeup. I was completely distracted by the overwhelming sense of responsibility I had to just keep it moving. And I was asleep at the wheel. Eyes wide open, but asleep at the wheel. That was my wake-up call. All this other stuff was happening to me, but this was in my hands. This was in my hands. And truthfully, I think a lot of us, not while driving, but while driving through our lives, while just keeping it moving, we're actually asleep at the wheel of life. And it feels pretty good. And then you slam into something and you wake up and you realize it's good, but it's not great. I'm kind of moving through life like a zombie. Do any of you remember that Dunkin' Donuts commercial from the 80s, Time to Make the Donuts? Fred the baker, right? He'd get up every day at the crack of dawn making the donuts, and he'd go back at night and he'd be making the donuts. He'd do it over and over until he was basically doing it in his sleep. When I was little, I thought that was funny. I didn't know life was really gonna be like that. Time to make the donuts. I was sleepwalking through my life, and when I hit that car and I looked back at my daughters, I realized there's so much more to this life than just this routine. I'm the same way. I get up every day at 5:30. I get myself ready. I get the girls ready. I make breakfast. I take them to school. I drive to work. I come home. I make dinner. We do homework. They get to bed. I get up at 5:30. I get myself. It's the same thing over and over again. Time to make the donuts. That's how I was living, and I was asleep at the wheel. Even cancer didn't wake me up. Even cancer didn't wake me up. But that accident, That slam, that blunt force trauma, that woke me up. That shocked me. And I knew that I had to start making some changes. I had to start looking at what I really wanted out of my life. And I knew a couple of things, right? It was time for me to wake up. That keeping it moving thing, that's just a coping mechanism. And I know a lot of people watched it and thought of it as bravery, but to me, enough was enough. It was time for me to pay attention and see what was really going on in my life, and not just my new cancer life, all of my life. First of all, this habitual living, that making of the donuts, that's not really living at all. I know there needs to be some rhythm, some time management and regiment to the days and lives that we lead, but I also know that that rhythm can lull you into this zombie-like state where you're just going through day after day, and you're really just going through the motions. You're asleep at the wheel. I was missing things. But not only was I missing things, I was a 2.5-ton piece of machinery driving down the road doing damage. Negative things that were happening at my hand. Things that were under my control. And yes, secondly, I am a 2.5-ton machine. I am not small. You are not small. And so what I do has impact. Once that really settled in on me, I had to take a long, hard look at myself. And I got really critical. And I'm not just talking about, my weight or what was going on with my hair, right? Or the wrinkles on my face. I don't think we think hard enough about how we're managing the relationships and commitments in our life. How am I really doing as a mom, as a friend? Am I in the right career? Is there a reason why I'm still single? I wanted to really dig into this. And so I started with the relationships that are closest to me, and that's the one with my daughters. And was it hard to realize that maybe I wasn't being the best mom I could be? Yeah, that was hard. But it was worth it. It was worth it, because the truth is I wasn't terrible, but there were things that I needed to do differently. I needed to be less perfunctory and more purposeful in my interactions and my time with them. I needed to cherish them for who they were as people, not just because I gave birth to them. I didn't think I could love my kids any more than I already did, but I do. And guess what? They love me more too. And I feel it every single day, and it feels good. Being deeply critical about myself and how I love and how I show love, it made me realize something I never would have realized before. My wake-up call also reminded me that I want to live my best day ever. I want to live my best life ever. There's a lot of sayings that you get when you're diagnosed with cancer. Things that you see places, and people are cheering you on, and things like live like you're dying, or YOLO. That stands for you only live once. The kids from yesterday probably could teach us all that, right? You only live once. And I started thinking, does this work for me? And the truth is, if I was gonna live like I was dying, I'd probably do something that would get myself in trouble, and then I'd wake up and I wouldn't be dead. So that doesn't work for me. Oprah says, live your best life ever. And that sounds great, but when I really start thinking about it, it's a little overwhelming for me. It sounds like something that I might not be able to accomplish. But I can live my best day ever, every day. Because if I just focus on that one thing, if I focus on what I do for that day, if I focus on today, then I take conversations as they come. I focus on engaging with intent, being thoughtful in my interactions, and really enjoying the moment. And I do that again tomorrow. The other thing about focusing on my best day ever is that it allows me to really focus on the people that are most important to me, because I'm with them every day. And for me, that's my girls. It's an opportunity for me to see every day as a new opportunity to be the best mom that I can be, and to give them their best day ever. And yeah, well, some of my best days include going to a fun concert with my friends, or hanging out with my family, or walking in a park, or standing on a stage talking to a really great group of people. Yeah, hopefully. But then I'm just gonna do that again tomorrow to have my best day ever. So I guess maybe I was shocked. And this is how I'm getting over the shock. Every day, living in this way, and living awake. Thank you.